Welcome back to a new post today. Today, let's discuss about a very important outcome of the Niti Aayog report given by CEO of Niti Aayog, BVR Subramaniam. So today he revealed that the poverty in India has come down to 5%. Now, how far this data is really authentic? It's questionable because I personally don't support this. Let's try to question some of the findings that the government has brought about through this report, which has been released after a decade. That's a very long period of time. And it takes a lot of pride in saying that the poverty has come down to 5%, and very recently itself, in the ending of the year 2023, Niti Aayog came out with a report called as Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index. That report itself said that we have 11% poverty in India, and coming down from a specific number which I will be telling you now. However, in such a less period of time, the poverty coming down to 5% in the country is definitely not possible. It is questionable, especially the authenticity of this data coming out, that too coming out after a decade. And also the manner in which the findings have been interpreted is definitely out of, it's not in tune with the findings, with the real result or the real meaning of the findings. So the government is definitely trying to hide a lot of things from the consumers or the readers, whoever follow this data, and that too just before the elections. So it is trying to manipulate the findings of the data, I would say. Whether I should use this word or no, I really do not know, but definitely this is what I found out. Let's have a quick review of on what basis is the government the Niti Aayog CEO is coming up with the conclusion, and also with an achievement saying that poverty in the country has come down to 5%, which is definitely questionable. So he took out the data of the survey called as the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey. Now he called it the latest consumer expenditure survey, and he said that it indicates poverty has come down to 5% in the country, and people are becoming more prosperous both in rural and urban areas. Now, if you look at the findings of this report, you will definitely not come to a conclusion that the people are definitely getting prosperous, because it means something else. Now, the survey called as the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, the survey has been conducted between 2022 and 2023 and provides insights into the household consumption, highlighting poverty levels and effectiveness of the poverty elevation measures being implemented by the government. Mr. Subramaniam said that the survey's data on the household consumption is a key metric for evaluating success of the poverty reduction initiatives. Now, it may be noted that the report has been released almost after a decade's gap, and it revealed that the per capita monthly household expenditure more than doubled in 2022-23 compared to 11 and 12. So it's just talking about expenditure and not of income. Mr. Subramaniam said that the long-awaited survey has brought out many new things and the data on household consumption, which is useful. So he's citing the data. He said that the increase in consumption in the rural and urban areas is about 2.5 times. The Niti Aayog CEO said that this is a significant takeaway from the survey's findings, is that the consumption in the rural and the urban areas is going very fast and thereby narrowing the gap. But does consumption level show the reduction in poverty, or is it hiding the income level? And does consumption level means that they are spending more money on the goods that they are purchasing? Now, this is a question to be asked. So this was what the CEO said. Then the National Sample Survey Office under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation released the data on the household consumption expenditure for 2022 and 23. It shows that the per capita income per capita monthly household expenditure more than double compared to 2011 and 12. So this might also mean a rise in inflation. That means the goods becoming even more costlier than before, and that is why there is more per capita household expenditure. Mr. Subramaniam said that the survey's data is a key metric for evaluating the success of poverty reduction initiatives, but even I question this finding because they have not been come out with solid numbers on how the poverty has been reduced. So poverty should be reduced not by expenditure but by rise in income. So what are the highlights of this? Let's see. So the findings reveal that there is an increase in consumption, as I told you, both in rural and urban areas, and not only in urban areas, experiencing a surge of 2.5 times. So it may also mean that the prices have risen 2.5 times and rise in inflation, which has been a staggering problem from quite some time, even after the COVID pandemic. The average monthly per capita consumption expenditure in urban households rose by 33.5% since 2011 and 12 to 3,510, while in rural India it is a significant of 40.42%, increasing rupees 2,008 rupees. So consumption definitely reflects expenditure, but it does not reflect income. Based on this data, now the poverty levels in the country could be closer to 5%. This is what the CEO of Niti Aayog says. So this is definitely questionable. It could be closer to 5%, but on what basis is the government coming to this conclusion? Because recently the multidimensional poverty index report says something else. Now, one of the key observations of the survey is the shift in the spending patterns, particularly on the items of food expenditure. Rural households for the first time allocated less than 50% of their total expenditure on food, according to the survey. This might also be increase in the food prices, and therefore they are not spending much and only buying particular items. So does it mean eating more food or more costly food? This has to be questioned. The survey claims that the urban and rural consumption divide has narrowed from 91% in 2004 and 5 to 71%, significantly showing a reduction in inequality. But does this really show a reduction in inequality? Does it mean that the rural people are really getting good jobs and good pays on par with the urban areas? Now this is questionable. It also does not mean reduction in inequality, but also means that there is inflation both in rural and urban areas, and there is not much of difference in the earnings of rural and urban areas. We know that urban areas are mostly tertiary and service oriented, and the rural areas are mostly primary sector oriented. So this is one important question that should be asked. In food consumption, beverages, processed food, milk, fruits is growing, which is an indication of much more diverse and balanced consumption. I would attribute this to the increasing awareness about immunity that has been growing after the COVID-19, and also the fear around the vaccination. So this also means that the retail inflation is increasing, because food and all these products come in the basket of retail inflation, and more importantly consumer price inflation and core inflation, consumer price inflation and retail inflation. Yes. So Subramaniam also claimed that the benefits like healthcare under Ayushman Bharat scheme and free education were not factored into the survey, suggesting that destitution and deprivation have nearly disappeared. Now this is not, I really question on what basis of this data that the government has given that destitution and deprivation have nearly disappeared, because we are not many years away from the pandemic, and the pandemic period has definitely, even the United Nations has said that it's pushed more people into poverty. So what does the multidimensional poverty index data of the Niti Aayog says? So it says that 24.82 crore people escaped multidimensional poverty in the last 9 years, and this is about the Niti Aayog's discussion paper on multidimensional poverty index in India since 2005 and 2006. He gave credit for this remarkable achievement to significant initiatives of the government to address all dimensions of poverty between 2013-14 and 2022-23. So this also includes, we should understand that these years include the pandemic period, and so we really cannot say whether the people who have been away from poverty or they are not in the poverty have died, they are living. So because many people have lost their lives during the pandemic, so those people who have lost their lives in the pandemic mostly belong to the backward and the poverty, the people who are poor, also those people who are suffering from various ailments or diseases due to which their immunity, and most of these people come in the backward section. So this data again is questionable, and this achievement of the government is questionable. So on par of this, the government should also give the data of the people who have actually lost their lives during the pandemic period. So according to the discussion paper, India has registered a significant decline in multidimensional poverty in India from 29% in 2013 and 14 to 11% in 2022. As I said, the lost number might be the people who have lost their lives during the COVID-19. And this shows a reduction of 17.8 percentage points. Also, if you identify the states, Uttar Pradesh registered the largest decline in the number of poor with 5.94%, escaping multidimensional poverty during the last 9 years, followed by Bihar 3.77 crore, Madhya Pradesh 2.30 crore, and Rajasthan. These are the states who have the largest percentage of poverty, and they were also affected during the pandemic period. So the paper also shows a pace of decline in poverty headcount ratio using an exceptional method was much faster between 2015 and 2019 and 12. So there was a 10.66% annual rate of decline compared to 2005 and 6. Again, this is questionable because in 2019-20 itself we had the pandemic period. So this percentage of annual rate of decline is once again questionable. Now, significant initiatives covering all dimensions of poverty have led to 24.82 crore individuals escaping multidimensional poverty in the last 9 years. As a result, India has likely to achieve the sustainable development target of halving the multidimensional poverty before 2030, and this is what the government of India says. The government of India has personally with persistent dedication and resolute commitment to enhance the life of the people, especially the most vulnerable and the deprived, have been instrumental in this accomplishment, and this is what the government of India says. So let me tell you, many of the programs especially could not be implemented even during the pandemic period, especially with regard to the ailments or the disease programs, especially the TB patient were affected the most, and the WHO and report itself says that because of the pandemic there has been a rise in the TB cases in India, and it's questionable how far India can achieve the TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan by 2025 as claimed by the government of India. I will say how far this data is really acceptable, and how far we can really say that we have achieved a reduction in poverty before 2030. So this is some of the findings which I felt I should be questioning, and this can give us a better analysis of the findings of some reports which are come. So UPSC definitely does not ask you straightforward questions. It's always analytical, it's always examination based and critically analyzing questions. So this way of questioning the reports and findings will definitely help you to improve the way you look at reports or schemes which are brought about by the government, and also will help you to put across your point very strongly in the mains examination. So these are the few points I thought I should be questioning on my own, because I've been tracking the poverty data and with regard to the steps taken, and also during the pandemic period how people have been affected. So I feel the data is definitely one-sided. It's not giving out a clear picture, and I really don't think so that the poverty has come down to 5%. This is definitely, this percentage is questionable. If you did feel that this way of analysis was really helpful to you all, and the points that I brought out were really genuine, and you also feel the same, then please don't forget to comment, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.